Hola.
In 2024, Nigeria celebrated 64 years of independence, and in another few months, it will be 65 years of independence. But for many citizens, it felt like anything but a celebration. The average Nigerian is weighed down by the same burdens that plagued the country decades ago: insecurity, unemployment, corruption, bad governance, poverty, and a widening trust gap between the government and the governed. In buses, on social media, in marketplaces, and at the dinner table, one thing has become increasingly clear: Nigerians are losing their faith in their country. You hear phrases like, "Now will Nigeria help? This country na cruise. E go better, but we don't dey wait since." And these aren't just jokes, they're expressions of deep-seated frustration. I believe the problem isn't just the system, it's the leadership culture. Citizens have become more politically aware, accolades to the inception of movements like the NSAS, but yet many feel that elections remain a recycling of the same political elite. People see a disconnect between those who hold power and the everyday realities of the masses. According to surveys, a significant percentage of young Nigerians ages 18 to 35 have either considered leaving the country or are actually planning to, a phenomenon now known as the Japa syndrome. This isn't just about economic survival, it's a form of protest against a nation that has failed to create space for dreams to thrive. This is an issue, but this is why we are here. And this is why I also welcome you to Politics Uncensored, where we tackle the tough topics, challenge the status quo, and uncover the hidden narratives that shape our world. On Politics Uncensored, we strip away the spin and get to the truth of Nigeria's political landscape. Our goal is to provide a platform for open and honest discussions where experts and everyday citizens can share their perspectives and insights. Of course, it's always going to be your favorite show, and we have an expert guest who will be joining us very soon. I'm your host, Okike Olataiwo Jalukmo, a proud member and new generation of leaders, young, bold, and committed to redefining the future of governance in this great nation. Today, we're digging into a topic that affects all Nigerians. We're asking what's going to be the future of Nigerians. You can call me the polyhumanitarian. And of course, I want to hear from you because every of our episodes is all about you. So be a part of the conversation and add your voice to these discussions. You can head onto our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share the link. You can also invite your friends and family to join the show now. Our phone lines are also open to you. You can call us on 070 2500 and 070 Our WhatsApp is open. Our social media are open to hear what you have to say. We'll go on a break right now. We'll return with our guests and take our top stories in the political space making headlines. Please stay tuned.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word.
Hey, Nepa.
Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Welcome back. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and today we're sitting with a politician and asking what's the future of Nigeria. This episode is not just about politics, it's about asking the uncomfortable questions. Can Nigeria be saved by a new generation of leaders who truly care? Are Nigerians ready to embrace feminist and inclusive politics? What does hope even really mean for the average Nigerian today, in a time when Nigeria's future feels uncertain and its people are yearning for honest, bold, and visionary leadership? We turn to voices that have dared to step into the political arena with clarity and conviction. Today on Politics Uncensored, we sit down with a woman who represents not just political aspiration, but a deep commitment to human rights, gender equity, and nation building. I have here Dorothy, who is the Chancellor of the Increased Feminist Institute and a 2023 presidential aspirant. Welcome to Politics Uncensored, Dorothy.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So please, I would really love you to do me the honors. What did you say, Ma?
I said it's a great privilege to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Ma. Please, I would love you to do me the pleasure of pronouncing your name and your last name also. For the viewers to know.
My first name. Yes, my name is Chestnut Milo, and my surname is Akenova, Nuhu Akenova. So Chestnut Milo Dorothy Nuhu Akenova is the full name.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's a baggy name, so I'm not surprised that you are not familiar with it. But one of my intentions is to put Gbagi squarely on the political map of Nigeria. And so I have insisted on maintaining my first name. And we have to learn it, like we've learned others. So
sometimes, generally, Nigerians, when we see certain names like that, or if I'll say in my own opinion, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is such a beautiful name, but so hard to pronounce. But I think that these are the kind of awareness that we should have when it comes to our native names, and we should own it as Nigerians, even for, international platforms in that sense. So I'm glad that you, imbibed that and you've taken that up. But before we go into the topic for today, I usually like to hear the perspective of our guests when it comes to the political news, brief from some Nigerian newspaper. So we have one of the stories here, reading, permit me, saying that fake opposition, Sowore explains how APC controls the PDP, Labour Party, and others. And I'm sure you know who Omoyele Sowore says, who is a human rights activist and a publisher of Sahara Reporters. He has allegedly said that all opposition parties in Nigeria are under the control of the ruling party, which is the APC, except his party, the African Action Congress. Sowore said that most of the opposition parties in the country were created by the administration, by the APC, for special purposes. The activist, while speaking on Ribbon Minds, a talk show on Channels Television, claimed that the AAC, the party he founded in 2018, is the only opposition amongst the 18 registered political parties in the country. According to him, some of the parties allegedly created by the APC to be used as special purpose vehicles were usually funded for elections so that they could help the ruling party with legal challenges challenges. What we found out in our little research is that most of the parties that are left, apart from the AAC, are parties that were created by the major parties. They call them feeder parties or special purpose vehicles. This is Shorore saying this, and he's also going further to say what they do is that when they want to go into election, they will find a candidate, fund the candidate in those other parties, so that sometimes some of the candidates or the parties are meant to help them with legal challenges. So they all go and challenge the election, and whomever has won will approach either the opposition party or the smaller parties and settle them, and everybody gets paid and walk away, and they will hang around, Shorore claimed. The activist also said that he observed each political party go to meetings with the INEC. The opposition parties don't act like the opposition, adding that they are not ideologically opposed to the ruling party. The people that oppose us the most when we go to meetings are these other smaller parties that you think are in the opposition, he added. He asked if his observation included the PDP and the Labour Party. Shorore said, Labour Party is the worst, and he said this in his words. He said, according to him, the relationship between the APC and the Labour Party is the reason some of these party members are defecting to the ruling party. The Labour Party, I would say, is the worst when we go to meetings, and that is why the Labour Party candidates are now moving to the APC. They have always been very excited about belonging to the ruling party, in quote. In fact, that's why he refers the Labour Party as a short rental. Most of them that went to Labour Party saw an opportunity. They were coming for either the PDP or the APC. They walked in there, grabbed, and then the moment they had the booty bag, they went back to where they were coming from. Shorore alleged it. He, however, reiterated the claim that the ruling party is institutionalizing a one-party state, stressing that most of the opposition parties were created to give impression that there is opposition in the country. And these are such very bold claims from Omoyele Shorore, but I'd like to know, Dorothy, what do you think about some of these claims that Shorore has mentioned? And what do you generally think about the APC and some of these defections that have been happening recently?
Well, let me start by saying that political parties in Nigeria mostly are not ideologically defined. If we visit their manifestos, we are likely to see that they have articulated positions vis-à-vis all the issues that are of concern to population and development. However, when people do come on board these parties, we hardly see any difference, any line that demarcates an ideology one from the other. You know, we can't really say which is the capitalist, we can't say which is the socialist. We can't even begin to identify the parties vis-à-vis the positions that they hold as far as issues of development are concerned. This is not the case when we look at, clients that are more developed than ours. We can look at political parties and say, oh, this is a leftist party. Oh, this one is a right-wing party. But in Nigeria, that is difficult. And the reason why it is so is because the individuals who make up the party themselves do not have any clear ideology. They can jump on the bandwagon of any political party and they are comfortable because they don't have that conscientization that makes them feel like this is suicidal. There is something called ideological suicide. There are things that I will never endorse. I would rather walk away from that political party if that party, embodies those kind of ideologies. I'm a feminist, and I believe that we are all born equal in rights and in dignity. I believe that women have, the same rights as the men, and that all we need to do is to work on the system to enable women have equal access to opportunities, to resources, to bodily dignity and integrity, to the right to decision making and so on. And I believe in inclusion. So if we are going to have a party that does not stand for all of these issues that I stand for, then I will not be found in those parties. But most of the Nigerian politicians are not like that. And that is because most of our politicians are driven by personal interest. I have looked at, virtually the colleagues that I come across. I have had conversations with them. And that is why they can move from any party, anytime, any day. Because what is preoccupying them is not the ideology, it's not the interest of the people, it's their personal interest. They are there because they want to win. So where can I go so that which one looks like it's going to carry the day? And so they are, moving from one place to another. And that's why we can see this gravitation of people who have been elected under certain party and umbrellas, leaving the party and going to the party that is in the ruling party. Because all they want is to be in good standing with this party that looks like it has the potential to win the day. The other reason is that some of them have skeletons in their cupboard. And they know that, if the security agents are sent after them, they are not going to escape. And so what do? I remember that we once had a party chairman who said, if you want to be forgiven of all your sins, come and join our party. So it is still what is going on now. Because they don't want a situation where they are held accountable, where, the EFCC or the anti-corruption institutions are coming to sniff around to say, oh, okay, they have things to hide. And that is why they want to come to an umbrella where they can feel safe, where they can feel secure. And that is why we have this gravitation. So Showore, in a sense, is right. We do not have a formidable opposition. Where we do not have a formidable opposition, many things can go wrong. And that's why it's beginning to look like, oh, APC wants to turn Nigeria to a one-party system. The other thing that I have thought, about as all of these moves continue to happen is to say that the person in charge now, that is President Tinubu, he has mentored very many people. And the many people he has mentored happen to be in one party or another. And so it is easy for them to check where their loyalty belongs when push comes to shove and say, oh, this is my mentor. I need to support him through this. Or this is the person who brought me on board politics. And so it is important that I support him at this point. So these are some of the reasons why we are seeing this ugly development. I am not happy that we do not have a formidable opposition on ground, because that would have helped to check some of the things that are going on.
Thank you very much, Dorothy. You've made some very bold statements where some are really true and I completely agree with. And I think that it's also a very big systematic problem or a political problem in that sense, where people try to switch ideologies from one party to the other and there's no personality. They don't have confidence in their personality in that sense, with their values and their morals, and they keep going here and there stating that, oh, they are moving to this party just cause, without any direction whatsoever. Basically, this is all we have on the political story. We'll go on a break right now and then we'll return with our hot topic for today. Please stay tuned.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you just tuned in, we're sitting with a politician to discuss the future of Nigeria. And of course, we have Dorothy here, who has so lovingly joined us. But first, Dorothy, let's start off with your story. What inspired your entry into politics, and what made you take the bold step of running for president in 2023?
I have always been part of Nigerian politics since I reached adolescence. My father was a major figure in the North Central politics. While I was growing up, I was mobilizing young people. I was a polling unit agent in the 1983 elections, and I sat with my father through discussions, with my mother when they were doing analysis on who to meet and where to go, and with my older brothers eventually. And when we were serving tea and light refreshment for politicians who came to meet with my father, I could hear some of the conversations that they were holding. And so I picked interest. There is no way I could have grown in that atmosphere and not be interested in what was going on, because some of those things affected me directly. And so as we continued, we had to support my older brother, who was eventually deputy governor of Niger State, following the 1999 elections. And he did the 2 tenures and then also did the by-election for the Senate. And we, supported. My concern has always been the fact that, certain groups of people are marginalized in Nigerian politics. And somehow from the communities that I represent or that I come from, we suffer marginalization a lot. I'm a woman. Women are marginalized in politics. I remember that all the work that I did, the credit always went to the male members of the family. It was like, just backing them up in their interests, And then I am a Christian. And when woman, I belong also to minority. I may not look externally like somebody with disability, but as a breast cancer survivor, I'm categorized by, the World Disability Association as a woman with disability. I also gave birth to a son with Down syndrome. And so I'm interested in issues of persons with disabilities. And I have known since the middle 90s, when I started working in the development and population sector, that these are the groups, that often get marginalized, that do not have access to services, to resources, to opportunities. And so my activism has been focused on advocacy to ensure that marginalized populations are treated fairly and have, opportunity to be at the table where the agenda is set. And I have done this at the UN level as, a feminist. And the stories of how the feminist movement has impacted on negotiations that happen at such high-level policy-making level are there, in the records. And so my interest was born at that level. And I realized also that as people, feminists who are pushing envelopes and trying to make sure that the language in consensus documents and treaties favor marginalized population, that we were failing because we were not represented in the mainstream. And, that raised my interest. And I started to take, participation in politics seriously. I became more active in the political parties, and we all pushed and advocated for, the gender clause in the manifestos, so that we make sure that women have certain recognition when it came to party structure, and that had opportunities to contest certain positions other than being woman leader, and that young people also had a voice, because in our activism, we believe that with the growing youth population, it would be inimical not to have young people take part in decision making, especially when it comes to governance. And so I was one of those who really pushed for that. The time that I decided that I may run for an office followed after I had started the Feminist Institute called Connecting the Dots. And that was to build capacity for women and young people in political participation. This was strengthened by the Not Too Young to Run bill and eventually the act. And then we realized that the young people who are coming out didn't have most of the young people didn't have the content that was required. So if they came out and they were interviewed on their field of specialty, if they've been to school, they'd be able to manage, their way through such conversation. But once you leave that space and then you begin to talk about something unrelated, as we may think, with what they have read in school, then they were completely lost. And so I felt that it was time for someone from the feminist movement to try and build capacity for young people and women in politics to be able to connect the issues and see, how they can articulate these issues in the political space in order for them to gain traction. After all, politics is about people, and people are going to serve when they get the positions.
Absolutely.
And so the connecting the dot was established, and then we began training young people and women. And then, of course, the 2023 elections we came to the corner, and we sat down and deliberated and said, well, we've done the theory. We've had up to 5 batches of people that we have trained. And so it was time for people to go into the political party, get positions in the structure, and then some of the people to also contest for the elections. And that was how I decided that I would run for 2023 presidential elections. I felt that it was good to have somebody who is not the usual kind of politician, but someone who is emerging from activism, who has done advocacy and has a grasp of the issues and know how all the issues interconnect, the political issues, the environmental factors, the gender issues, the economic factors. How do they all intersect to keep us where we are today? And how can we analyze these issues and build intervention strategies in governance to move us away from where we are to somewhere much more pleasant? And so I felt I stood a very good chance as a lover of Nigerians and Nigeria, a patriotic one at that matter, to put myself out there as a presidential aspirant.
Thank you so much, Ma. I think I'm very much inspired by how much work you have done, both in the political space and in capacity building. And I'm sure that's been what has fueled your advocacy towards your political vision in that sense. And looking at how feminism and all of this and human rights has been bastardized in that sense, where sometimes people would tag feminism as something that people should be afraid of, and as something that is dangerous in that sense. I personally remember that when I also ran in 2019 House of Assembly election. And I remember when I used to go around to campaign and some people were like, yes, you're great at what you do. Maybe you should start from being a woman leader. And they used to call me Iron Leader. And I was like, that's not about what I want to do. I don't want a title that doesn't let me, impact in that sense. And it's such of a cliche position if we really look at it, where if a man was supposed to be, if a man could be a woman leader, I'm sure that they would have given the person the position either way. But I want to know what challenges you faced in the Nigerian political space, especially at the level where usually they'll tell you to go and start from the grassroots before taking the bold step to run for, presidential, the presidential seat. So what challenges did you face as a woman in the Nigerian political space?
Well, to start with, the fact that, we don't get as much visibility as women when we do the things we do in our political parties is a disadvantage, because if the track record of my activities in politics were visible the way they would, keep the men's work visible, then people would not have been surprised by the fact that I came out as the presidential aspirant, because I had done my bit from the grassroots level. If since the age of 16 and even earlier, I've been active on the political scene at the grassroots level in my community. I don't think that anyone, had the right to think that I've not paid my dues. And I also think that our capacity is what determines where we want to contest. Not everybody is going to start from being a councillor or from being a party, secretary. We can have capacity to start at whatever level that our capacity can take us through. And I felt that I didn't have to have been the chairperson of any local government before, or haven't been a House of Reps person before. I could run for the presidency. The challenges included especially financial resources, because coming from activism background, my name is a common name, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world. If people just went online and put that name in, you would see pages come. That is a testimony to the work that I have done, at home and internationally. But to put oneself out there requires resources. One needs to give millions to appear on television programs. One needs to pay lots of money to carry, some airplane to go around and see the key stakeholders, in the entire country. And then maintaining the structure itself, of course, requires a lot of resources. And many women do not have that kind of funding. We may talk about how come the men have it and the women don't have it. Well, many times we know that the men who have those huge resources didn't get them doing things that were morally right. They were either doing contracts with the government and inflating prices. Some of them were in government positions and they stole from the government coffers. There is hardly anybody who would earn their resources and then come and squander and be extravagant about those resources the way we see our politicians, handling and managing the resources. But they have the resources, that's the point. And then they are able to, occupy the space. And women are not capable of occupying those spaces or reclaiming them because we do not have the financial clout to challenge our male counterparts in politics in that direction. The other thing is the bias that people have. They think that women don't have the capacity to lead at certain levels. They think that we can run the homes, we can bring the children up, including they themselves. We have capacity to teach in schools from primary to university, be professors and vice chancellors. We even have capacity to run, institutions globally. But when it comes to governance in Nigeria, they begin to look down on us as women. And that is the way patriarchy operates. They'll come up with all manner of things. I remember a woman who was running in politics, and some people were saying the way they see it in their own tribe, that those who squat to urinate cannot lead them. That's how, they were describing her during the campaign, and then all manner of things come to play. Is she married? Is she submissive to her husband? All sorts. If a woman is not married, they begin to wonder, to ask questions. I remember people coming up to me to say, so when you are the president, who is going to be the president's husband? It didn't matter if I had been married and I was widowed, they would still want to play that card. And there is nothing to do between marriage and, running the government. As a matter of fact, if I am not quoting my own religious book wrongly, the Apostle Paul advises that if you want to be dedicated and diligent to your cause, you stay single, because you will get distracted by the husband trying to please him or by the wife trying to please him, and then you will have divided attention. So I don't know why we are not taught that scripture very well, because that goes to show us that we can be dedicated, we can be focused, we can be diligent if we don't have those marital distractions. And they will always come up, because you have to take permission from your husband to go for meeting. And if he's uncomfortable with that, he'll tell you, well, if you go, it is at the risk of your marriage.
Your marriage,
and so on. So there are also these traditional expectations on women that kind of limit how far we can go in politics.
Well, thank you very much. These are very realistic problems. And like you rightly said, if we're to play the devil's advocate at this point, the last statement you made about not being distracted will be the key thing that one can also use to weaponize why you should stay the way you are without some of these questions. And I don't think that this is something that is always, it's common when they ask the men, are you married, for the reason for, getting into that position. And these are some of the disparities between men and women, and some of the things that I'm sure you're also fighting for, where they can be an equal access to opportunities as well as men. But we need to take a breather at this point, and then we'll come back with our topic for today still on. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. So we're still talking about what the future is for Nigeria. We have Dorothy here, who has mentioned quite a few things, from challenges women face to a political aspiration, and why people should be politically driven by ideologies rather than personal interests. Well, now we're going to be discussing about what the current state of Nigeria is politically, socially, and economically. And I would like Dorothy to really open that up for me. What's your honest take on the current state of Nigeria, especially when it has to do with the political, the social, and the economic stance?
I think that when it comes to politics, our democracy needs a lot of improvement. I think that the policy that we have needs to be reviewed. We need to review how we, hold our election. And our constitution, generally speaking, is not doing us much good. We need to revisit that constitution. We need to review a lot of clauses in it. I know that many strong voices in the opposition have brought this up, very often, to say, if we continue this way, There is no way we're going to get any different results because we are doing the same thing over and over again. And so this act needs to be reviewed. The Constitution needs to be reviewed. We need to, reconsider the role of INEC and how that role is played. INEC also needs to be monitored by a certain body or group of people, because the way it is monitoring everyone else and there is no institution monitoring. So how do we get something, who are they answerable? And how do we get them to do something fair and just, and if they don't, then who holds them accountable? When you now tell them that, oh, okay, you can declare results and it is okay once it is you who declares it. It's not, somebody should be there, overseeing the work that INEC does. So we need to check how we vote. We trust technology enough to carry our ATM cards around the place. We are beginning to have our electric meters, water board, bills that are managed digitally. But we do not trust our election system to be handled by the same technology. Our entire banking system is being handled digitally now. And we know how easy life has been since we digitalized our banking system, and how it is possible to do the right thing, in the banking sector. So if we can trust all of these sectors of the society to be driven digitally, why are we afraid to submit our electoral system to the same digitalization? We want it to remain in the hands of some human beings so that we can play tricks and maneuver things. That is just the reason why we wouldn't want, the entire system to be driven by electronics. We can have electronics.
I personally think that I think the 2023 election gave us another view of what technology could do when it came to the IREV and the BVAS introduction into the electoral system, and we still had quite a number of issues with verifying results and all of that stuff. But beyond that, looking at moving ahead, it somewhat seems like this technology is what we have to keep using and reintroducing as every election cycle comes up. But the public trust has been ridiculed in that sense, where people don't trust thumb printing. Now they don't trust the electoral transmission of results. How do you think that we should begin to rebuild public trust in leadership and governance?
I think that we have to aggressively educate the populace, engage with Nigerian population. I think that the distance between the people and those in government is wide. And I'm not seeing deliberate attempt at bridging it. Sincerely speaking, some of the policies that are being pursued different are some of the things that myself would have done if I had the opportunity. However, the difference would be how we engage with the people, because all of this is about the people. So I believe that we need to consciously and deliberately bridge the gap between those in government and those at the grassroots level. I remember that during the structural adjustment policies conversation, which was even a military regime, there were meetings and seminars and conferences and workshops, decentralized, discussing the same thing and feeding all of it into the media and giving feedback to the government concerning what people want. However, now we are in democracy. I'm not seeing the same, passion to carry people along. I'm not seeing the same commitment to make people's voices count in the decision-making process. Loans, we just hear that House of Assembly has approved for a loan to be taken. We are not subjecting this to conversation. You may argue and say, those people in the House of Assembly, they are representing the people, but hey, we know how most of them got it. We didn't vote for someone. Somehow they are in there. And so they don't owe it to the people to give them a feedback or to obtain and harvest information for them to use where they are. And that is why, we are witnessing this chaos, because people are not being carried along the way we should. And that's a big, minus for the system that we are running today. We can only gain public trust if public has a sense of belonging, if public is participating and making contributions in how the country is driven. For as long as we are not being carried along, we are just there. Today is one news, tomorrow is another, and they are just flooding us with information from us. It doesn't matter how we're feeling at the community level. Then we're not going to go very far.
Absolutely. And I want to bring this now to the youth. These are also part of the public population in this sense. They have complained, and when I started, I spoke about the Japa syndrome that has been happening, how people say, oh, Nigeria, there's no hope in Nigeria, and all of these things. How do you think that we can now start involving, young people in politics in Nigeria, actively, seeking for not just political positions, but also overturning the recycled people over and over again? And do you also think that for young Nigerians who have felt excluded and, delusioned in that sense, what would you say to them today?
I believe that, first of all, as adults in the society, we are responsible for the younger generation. We owe them a duty to give them space at the table. And the way other countries have done is by quota system. Let us make sure that this quota is reserved for women. This quota is reserved for young people. And that is the way we can make everybody come to the table. Because if we want to assume that we all have equal playing levels, we will be telling ourselves a lie. There are people who are disadvantaged, and the only way to bring them up to speed, up to par with those who are already there, is to create those kind of, flexibility to encourage the people from marginalized populations to come to table. Let's put quota system in place. Unfortunately, we've been talking about the Beijing affirmative action that was supposed to have enabled us reach parity at the 20th anniversary of Beijing. But till now, we are far away from getting there for women and also for young people. And some of the countries that we have seen that have reached 25% to 50-50, which is the parity level, we can look at what they are doing, setting apart special seats, for those populations that need to be brought into the space. Nigerians are afraid to do that because greed has overtaken those who are already don't want to vacate their seat for someone else to come. And that is why I, applaud the initiative by the League of Women's Voters in Nigeria that are advocating for special seats. If you don't want us to compete for the ones that are already there, then increase the number and make it a quota for only women to contest to be there. And that is the outcry of many women. And, the same can be done for young people to ensure that we have representation, because we have a youthful population. We can't afford to have people in their 70s and 80s and 90s make decisions for people. Those who have 5 years left to live are making decisions for people who still have 65, 70 years to live. It can't work because we cannot put adequate plans and strategies in place. So we build roads. If we stretch very well, maybe it will get to 10 years. So what happens 20 years down the line? It means that our planning is falling short for the future generation. And this generation, they are taking people. How much do these 80 years and 70 years old people know about technology and how to look ahead and see how it's going to, develop in years to come? So we are not providing opportunities for our young people and for our women to be able to rub shoulders with their international counterparts. And that's quite a challenge. The other thing that you asked about was, it skipped me now.
If they're being excluded or the illusion, so how do we correct that?
Yeah. I'm thinking that apart from the fact that we have duty bearers who owe it a responsibility to make these spaces available, we also must take it upon ourselves to develop and groom ourselves and also be on the lookout for when there are openings for us to reclaim our spaces. And reclaiming spaces sometimes comes with a big price tag. We saw the NSAS protest, and how much was paid. That was NSAS. Since I was young in the university, Ali must go protests, all of those things happened. And young people paid very highly for protesting. And so we need to be more resilient as people who are looking for something. If we're looking for it, we don't expect that they'll give it to us on the platform. They're going to be very vicious. They're going to be aggressive and hostile. They're going to do everything to make sure we don't get in there. And so we need to build our capacity, to build our resilience, so that we can continue to push hard on those doors until they give way and we can go in. Because we know for now that they're not going to give it to us on a platter of gold. And so as young people, we need to have, groups and associations that are driven towards leadership and governance and entrepreneurship, because they are linked. Without resources, there is no way we are going to be able to play the politics the way it's being run today in Nigeria. So entrepreneurship is very, very important. And we must also keep our eye there as well. And so there is also things that we ought to do who want to step in. We can't leave it all and sit down and say, okay, when they feel like it. And we can't say because our votes don't count. And so we won't do anything anymore. Our votes count. And that is why in fact, if we were not participating at all, you'd be surprised what would happen. So the thing is for us not to get disillusioned, but to have hope. If we don't have hope, then we don't have a future. We have to believe that the future is ours. And we have to work to take it every day that passes. Let it be that I have put something in place, a capacity building opportunity that enables someone, to get closer to the mainstream. That is what you are doing, my dear sister, on this channel. And that is what many of us should continue to do, building capacity, creating opportunities for resilient skills development so that young people can continue to fight until such a time that, we can take off. Critical mass is important. If we build capacity for 5, 10 people, it's not enough. Because the men are more than 5 or 10 who are in power. That's bearing in mind that not all men are the same. It's not a homogeneous group. There are also men who are, marginalized. So, but for those few who are controlling the day, we need to come to an understanding that we must push them out somehow. And we can't push them out if we are disillusioned and if we lose. JAPA is something that some people will do, but it's not a solution for all of us. And as with JAPA, we must bear in mind that Nigeria is still our hope. What are we plowing back into the country to keep the country on its feet? As you are out there making resources, can you identify a credible organization that is building capacity for young people for political participation and channel a percentage of your income there to ensure that even though you are not on ground, 2 or 3 young people are gaining ground on your behalf? Because this is our hope. For as long as the earth remains, we want Nigeria to thrive. And we can't fold our hands and just let it go because we are disillusioned. It's a conversation I have every time with my children. And I believe that parents also have a role there. If we run, who will fix it?
Absolutely.
The angels are not going to come from the skies to
Absolutely.
do fixing.
Thank you so much, Ma.
Our
Thank you so much, Ma. I love how you have really wrapped up this conversation, and it's why this show is here, to let people know that they need to be informed, they need to be part of the system and not run away from the system. And if at all anyone has moved out to become whatever they have chosen to become abroad, there's the need to still have part of yourself in Nigeria, where your home country is, because that's the only way we can build a Nigeria that works for all of us. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining this conversation. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to you running again for another election, and then get people who align with your ideology to also, anchor into what you want to offer the country. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you.
Well, this is where we are wrapping up the show. But truth be told, many Nigerians have lost faith in the system, and for good reason. But voices like mine and many other well-meaning Nigerians, like our guest Dorothy here, reminds us that leadership can still mean service, can mean courage, and can mean vision. So if we want a better Nigeria, we must stop recycling broken system and start embracing bold, inclusive leadership. The future we want won't come by chance. It will come by choice. Thank you so much. And please follow us on our social media platforms. I'll see you again on Friday. Bye-bye.